microphone so we don't hear your background noise. We would appreciate that. And with that, I will call our meeting to order. And thank you all for
someone
coming.
please mute their phone? Sorry, we can't hear. Thank you.
Is everybody muted? So our governors that are called in are able to hear? Thank you.
Yes.
I'll call the meeting to order and welcome Dr. Van Galen to his first special meeting. And thank you all for coming to this special meeting that I called. He's been on the job 3 weeks.
3 weeks, yes.
And it seems like it's been a lot longer than that. And this isn't even our first regular meeting. It's a special meeting. But I would mention and remind you that today's meeting takes the place of the August 12th meeting that was tentatively talked about and contemplated at the last regular board meeting to pass the budget. I think the budget committee felt that budget had become more pressing, and actually, thanks to all you guys, got the numbers to the budget committee chair to be able to pass it sooner rather than later. And so with that, we just have 3 items on our agenda. One will be a report from a new committee, a committee that has come into existence since the last regular board meeting, and that is under the bylaws. We named an ad hoc committee to work with the campus coronavirus task force about any policies that may affect the university given the new climate, and we'll hear from that committee later. So this special meeting will only address 3 topics, and with that, I will first hand it over to Governor Haley to give us a report on budget. And it's a little fall since the majority of us were here, well, all of us were here other than Dr. Rosenberg during the committee. But Governor Haley, can you give us a report on the committee and
Yes.
Ask for any action that you need from the board?
Perfect. Thank you, Governor Hirschway. We did have a budget and audit committee meeting to discuss the FY21 budget. I think it has definitely taken a lot of work and effort across the campus. I'd like to thank you all for your time and attention to get the budget here sooner than we thought anticipated. We know there's been challenges because of the changes in information and COVID and state appropriation. So, but I feel confident in the budget that we have put together that it is definitely manageable for this coming year. So I would like to introduce this budget for the university to approve. But mostly I'd like to also talk a little bit about the revenue side of the budget. You know, most times when we think of budget, we talk about expenses. But, you know, I think as this time, as we talked a little bit before as well, including even academic affairs, I think Missouri Southern is a great university, and I think we need to do more, especially in this time, to what we can do to increase our student population to help weather any additional revenue offsets moving forward. So I would like to make a motion and recommend to the full board that the Budget and Audit Committee recommend that we adopt a $70.7 million revenue budget for fiscal year 21, knowing that, as we talked before, this will be a half-year budget and we will reevaluate it in 6 months.
Okay, Governor Haley's made a motion, and you all asked questions before, but this is your chance. If you have any questions you thought of over the break about the budget before we take action. Not. Governor Haley's made a motion. We'll need a second.
I'll second.
Second by Governor Elliott. All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Dr. Rosenberg is on, by the way.
Thank you, Dr. Rosenberg. Thank you for attending, and thank you for announcing your presence there, because I didn't hear you. Is there anything else from the Budget Committee?
There is one additional item we also talked about in the committee meeting, and that was the opportunity offer a voluntary retirement incentive. And so we would also like to make a motion to authorize the administration to offer the voluntary retirement incentive program for the 57 eligible faculty and staff members.
Okay, in committee, we discussed that, but Dr. Rosenberg wasn't with us, and our time was cut a little short. Does anybody have any questions of Governor Haley or the administration about the proposal of a voluntary retirement incentive? Hearing none, for the approval for the administration to go forward in offering that, I would need a motion and a second.
So moved.
Second, this is Anita.
A first by Governor Richard and a second by Governor Oplotnik. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? I may have forgotten here at my first special meeting to ask for any opposed to the passing of the regular budget. It's out of order, but were there any opposed on the first motion passing the regular budget? Hearing none. I think that passes. So that takes us to the Pandemic Advisory Committee, which is an ad hoc committee of the board, as I mentioned, that we named shortly after the last regular board meeting to work with the campus task force. I've asked Governor Gibson to chair that meeting or that committee, and he has done so. I think they've met 3 times and worked with the administration and the task force more often than that. So I will let Governor Gibson report to you what they've learned.
Thank you, Chairwoman Herschelway. The members of the committee are Governors Morgan, Rosenberg, Richard, and me. The committee's task, as set by Chairwoman Herschelway, is in consultation with the university's COVID task force to investigate and review methods and contingencies to accomplish the university's mission safely, effectively, and efficiently during the COVID pandemic. We have met twice. We met on June 23, and in addition to the committee members, most of the other governors were able to participate. The meeting was wide-ranging, and we covered a lot of territory. But of particular note, and although no vote was taken, there was broad support for face covering policy at the university. And as you know, the university did adopt a policy that went into effect on July 13. The committee met again yesterday on July 22. We heard a report from Mr. Fullerton, who chairs the university's task force. Some of the highlights of his report include there is a broad campus involvement on the task force. There are quarantine requirements for those arriving on campus from outside the continental United States. Resident students are expected to execute an assumption of risk statement with an expectation of acknowledgement of the policy by non-resident students. IT is testing an app called Campus Clear that was developed by Creighton University to assist with communications, contact tracing, and personal health screening. So far, the testing shows promise. The committee, when it met, expressed some security concerns, particularly personal health information security. I followed up with the IT folks, and they assured me that the application security protocols are solid. 10,000 masks have been ordered for faculty, students, and staff. Face shields for all faculty have been ordered. I think Dr. Carson alluded to this during the Academic Affairs Committee meeting. The plan is to start the semester in mid-August with a normal fall schedule, including the customary fall and Thanksgiving breaks. Faculty are expected to be preparing online or hybrid format contingencies should conditions warrant. Rentals of university facilities to outside entities will not be allowed through the end of 2020. At the time our committee met yesterday, the disinfection of classrooms, labs, and other areas of instruction was still under review and discussion by the task force. Later yesterday, the task force settled on the purchase of disinfecting wipes to be placed in each of the classrooms or other locations where students and instructions will be taking place. Physical plant is tasked with purchasing the wipes and the disinfectant. Students will be expected and encouraged to wipe down their work areas and desks prior to class beginning. Just an editorial note here, this is a lot of disinfecting wipes, and I think obtaining the quantity needed will be challenging at best. I've been participating in the weekly University Task Force conference call. I have found the task force to be well attended and quite functional. The individual engagement is high. The members of the task force, in my opinion, are doing an excellent job with the most difficult task, and my hat is off to them. I have nothing today that requires action by the board, and that concludes my report.
Does anybody have any questions of Governor Gibson or any of the administration about COVID-type affairs for student affairs, or anything more you want to learn about academics and how that's going to work on campus on the fall?
Governor Hirschway, I do have one question. I know we're keeping the same consistent schedule in the fall. Any thoughts come Thanksgiving break? Are there going to be campus re-entry protocols for additional screening if necessary?
I'll have to turn that over to Mr. Fullerton.
At this point, the only protocols will be if students actually leave the United States. It's difficult, even with faculty and staff, let alone students, if they are traveling within the continental United States, to have restrictions. There are hotspots all over the country, but over the last several months, Joplin itself was a hotspot, and so it's difficult for the universities to restrict the movement if they're staying within the United States. We will, as Governor Gibson mentioned, the app that we're going to be rolling out, that will ask students to self-analyze each day. And I'll say I've been playing with it the last couple of days, and if I can figure it out, it's pretty simple. It gives me the smiley face saying I'm good to go to work every morning. So we'll use those protocols and ask them to self-assess as we are every day throughout the semester. But right now, there are no restrictions unless they leave the United States.
Okay.
Mr. Fullerton, you talked in the first part about the dorms and the residency as it regards budget, and I know you touched on the accommodations or there and how it affected. But can you give us a little more detail about how students are going to live in the dorms? And
Residence Life's been working with the health center and with the Joplin Health Department. The quads, since those are 4-bedroom, 4-bath, there will be no changes to those type of facilities. For most of the apartments, even the health department did not necessarily recommend any change to those facilities. More so, they recommended that we keep adequate spacing, which across the country that's being debated, but most people are using at least 5% of your occupancy for isolation and or quarantine.
okay,
The other thing that they are asking is most of the schools in Missouri are using a 3-hour radius if a student is within 3 hours and has the ability to go home and quarantine or isolate. They're asking them to do that, so we'll follow that protocol as well. Other things they're doing, they're limiting the number of visitors. There are no visitors for the residence hall for the fall. They've changed their check-in times to where you get an assigned time to come and check in instead of everyone showing up at the regular time there. And then, of course, the men's and women's residences, the older style buildings, they will have drastically reduced occupancy.
and then Dr. Carson, can you tell us a little bit about how the in-person classrooms will be set up?
Sure. So we are operating by the heuristic of about 50% capacity in the classrooms, but we have not altered the class maximums. We haven't lowered them. We haven't increased them. So for our face-to-face classes, we are asking faculty to deliberate a couple of models. One, probably the most popular, is what's become known as the high-flex model. Well, first I should say, what we're really asking our faculty in face-to-face courses to do is a couple of things. One, ensure that every week, every student has the opportunity for face-to-face interpersonal there in the classroom interaction with the faculty member, and therefore not to unilaterally convert a course to online or some other format. And the second thing we're asking people to do is to respect the social distancing. So if you marry those two philosophies, then really what you get is the high flex model. And that is where the faculty member does report to the classroom every class period, but only a percentage, half or a third of the students do the same. And so the instructor is there basically repeating the class twice. And in the off week, when the students are not physically present, they are at home or remote doing digital work. So sort of online variety of work. And so it meets our students, again, wants and needs to have physical contact with their faculty members to be able to get immediate feedback. So there are, in those cases, we will have physical distance markings, so where you can sit. Heather and I had this discussion this morning. There are standard little stickers you can buy with a green thumbs up and a red thumbs down to indicate, but we are asking faculty members as part of their plan to figure out what seating configuration they want and where they want students to sit. Again, there's probably not a one-size-fits-all in many ways to meet the social distancing requirements. We will probably have staged, we'll ask students to wait outside until 5 minutes before their class begins whenever possible. We will probably have staged exits from classrooms, so not everyone is leaving at 10 minutes, before the hour. And so with regard to the sanitation of the classrooms, it's been a really, really big deal for us. So right now we are looking at 3 options open to the possibility of more. One of those is that, and we've been working with Mick and Faculty Senate on this as well. One of the possibilities is that we ask faculty members just to assume responsibility for spraying down. There is a spray out there. You can spray it on touch surfaces, and you don't have to touch it. After 10 minutes, it disinfects without any human contact. Or we will have it available and ask students to take responsibility, like on airplanes or in gyms, for spraying down their own area. So if we don't have wipes, we would have gloves in the spray bottle and the paper towels in order to do that. There's another possibility that students who are looking for community service volunteer hours, which are many students, because many students are in programs that have that, and COVID has shut down their volunteer and service opportunities. So to do that and to take responsibility for wiping down the desk, the whole room, every used desk. So what we're doing right now is basically talking to faculty, asking them for more ideas, empowering them to make sure that the classroom environment is clean some sort of way or sanitized some sort of way for their students. That's really been sort of the biggest challenge we've had over the last couple of weeks, is figuring out that. It's a job nobody wants to do, but obviously we don't have the budget to hire physical plant representatives to stand by in each classroom and run in, the 10 minutes between every class and wipe that down. The last thing I wanted to say is with regard to unique and different spaces, we are putting into action a lot of spaces that have historically not been classrooms so that we can spread people out across buildings more. And then we have had a few faculty members who say, my adaptation is that I want to meet every student, every class period, and I need a bigger venue. I need a bigger environment so our students can spread. And so far, we've been able to meet the demand for that. It's like a huge jigsaw puzzle. We use 200 learning environments on this campus. We have some people who are used to teaching in their favorite room, but their favorite room has a capacity of 40 physically, but there's 16 students in their class. Well, we are working with them to move them out of their favorite place to another place so we can move a class of 20 into the classroom for 40. And so it's real disruptive in ways that you cannot even anticipate really to the learning, but trying to optimize the number of students in every room by respecting the social distancing and safety. We have one academic affairs team member who does that basically all day long. Moves classes here, moves classes there, goes around, checks out classroom spaces, gets desk in, gets desk out. So we're trying to take it really, really seriously. I mean, the risk and benefits and the different stakeholder demands and needs to have the face-to-face interaction, but recognizing that we want to do that as safely as possible is a challenge. And we hope we're getting it right, but if we're not getting it right, we understand also we're going to have to be flexible and maybe change things midstream.
And Governor Hirschway, just an update since our committee meeting. A couple things, if the Board of Governors have not been to our website recently, it is totally revamped and the COVID page is totally
Okay.
full of new information and frequently asked questions. And then also University Relations has been tasked, and so we want to say thank you to them with gathering all the information that the committee has been pulling together. And so we hope to have, we've got a rough draft of a return to campus document that is being circulated through the committee right now for comments and additions. By the end of next week, we hope to have that out. We'll publish it in PDF format on the website as well, but we'll have that available for the board and for the students, faculty, staff, and community members that want to see what we're doing for the fall.
Any other questions from the board for Governor Gibson or as relates to the COVID? I know Dr. Van Galen has also done town halls with a lot of the constituencies.
Yes, we had two town halls in the last couple of weeks. The first was on COVID-19 to try to share with the campus the work that's being done, and there's been a lot of tremendous work being done by many people, and to do our best to answer the questions from the campus. So I think that was helpful to provide some assurances, but also to let people know we don't have all the answers yet, but we're working on it, and I think that was well received. And then, of course, the other town hall was related to the budget.
Madam Chairwoman,
Yes, Governor Gibson.
Darren, I was listening to Dr. Carson talk about the use of students in the classrooms for disinfection and faculty, and I want to make sure that I reported correctly that the task force concluded yesterday that the disinfecting wipes was the path forward.
That's what the committee preferred. I've got Dr. Gunderman next to me. There is a concern asking students to do something that our staff and that our custodians aren't going to do. And we thought just the time factor of someone having to do, depending on the number of desks, because again, every classroom, as Dr. Carson said, may have a different number of seats and stations and those sort of things. So the committee, after I think much deliberation, thought that if the hand wipes and the disinfectant wipes were available, that would be the most efficient, because then faculty could disinfect their area and the students had responsibility for disinfecting theirs, and it would cut the time frame down substantially. So if physical plant is able to do that, then that would be the preferred method that we'd use.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for clarifying that.
Any other questions about the plans for fall and the pandemic, or anything you want to add, Dr. Galen? Thank you.
Certainly, I've received many, many questions from students, community members, alumni, and I think our message is pretty simple. It is our goal, our intent to provide face-to-face instruction to the greatest extent possible that we can do so safely. And there's a lot underneath that statement. And I think we all also recognize we will need to be flexible, learn as we go, and none of us can predict the course of the coronavirus in the months ahead. But I do feel very good that we have great people working on it, looking at best practices, and that we'll be ready when the students do come back, and we will respond accordingly as things change.
Okay, and the third committee agenda was academic affairs, and Dr. Carson's already spoken about the plans for COVID. Were there any other questions about academic affairs for Dr. Carson, or anything you'd like to add, Dr. Carson?
Can I speak about the impact of the budget on academic affairs?
Yes, please.
So obviously, because of our mission, a lot of the revenues and expenses associated with the institution are sort of in that particular area. So we try to be really, really careful. As Rob said, we have 22 unfilled faculty positions, which we're just trying to get by without for as long as we can. But we also have probably about 20 faculty members on that retirement incentive program list. I don't know how many of those we'll take, but we're trying to get by with that for right now, and I think we're doing well, and really appreciate the faculty. The way we're doing that is we are really not supporting the running of small classes, whereas we still allow a lot more low enrollment classes. We're trying to vertically stack classes, trying to create mixed credit classes. A lot of our undergraduate upper division courses, when we can combine them with graduate sections of courses, which is, it's not innovative or new practice. It's done all the time. We just haven't done it extensively here. So trying to look at petitions, substitutions of classes, so that we can be as efficient as possible in running those things. But there are a couple of things that I wanted to mention. Academic affairs is going to take the whole entirety, every academic department will take the 10% budget cut, but in reality, every department is going to take an additional 40%. Our operational budgets and academic affairs are going to be cut 50%. The way it works is that every faculty member FTE typically gets about $2,000 operational expenses a year. That will only be about $1,000. So that will leave programs to largely exist on course and program fees for operations. Fortunately, we won't be able to travel a lot anyway. So there'll be travel restrictions. A lot of conferences will be canceled, but in the area of library and international, we'll also see really significant cuts to those areas as well, that obviously we would hope to be restored. And so I just wanted faculty to be aware when they see the impact of the budget on how we do things. It's going to be beyond the furloughs and the 10% operational cuts, and it's necessary, and we can do it. And we can do it while keeping student progress and success and quality of learning at our focal point. But it is going to not be business as usual by any means, I think, across campus, including in academic affairs.
And I want to go back and we moved to academic affairs, and I'll say to Governor Gibson, this job isn't as easy as you made it look. I should have asked Governor Oplotnik, as chair of the academic affairs, of anything she wanted to bring up about academic affairs, and you, Dr. Rosenberg, also on the line now since the committee meeting. Anything else you need to add, or any other questions anybody has of Paula, Governor Oplotnik, about academic affairs?
We would just request that we're going to review all programs under the direction of Dr. Carson and Dr. Van Galen and the leadership team at Missouri Southern, and present that information at the next meeting.
Okay, we moved through that relatively quickly. We do have need, and it was duly posted as advised by council, to go into executive session now for two brief matters. To do that, we will need a roll call vote. Those are closed executive sessions pursuant to 610.021 subsection 1 and 610.021 subsection 3. If the secretary would take a roll call vote, please.
Yes.
Bill Gibson,
Governor?
Yes.
Carlos Haley,
Yes.
Allison Hershaway,
Yes.
Marianne Morgan,
Yes.
Anita Oplotnik,
Yes.
Ron Richard,
Yes.
and Dr. Rosenberg. Dr. Rosenberg. Dr. Rosenberg?
We may have lost him, or he may have gone on mute.
Yes.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank
Rosenberg.
Keep getting muted here.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, we will go into closed executive session, and that is in room
343.
356? 356. So we will see you there. Did I forget anything? Forgot the,
On the closed session, are you gonna start that at 4, or do you want us to dial in now?
that's what I forgot. It's a separate dial-in number, and if you could, if you need a short break, take it, but we can go ahead and start now, is my understanding. We have 2 topics, and I'm willing to start as soon as we get down there.
Okay, great, thank you.